In this session, we will talk about AI writing mastery for ChatGPT, and especially when it comes to writing more in-depth blog posts. And we'll get into a little bit how to do this for social media, for newsletters, and things like that as well. But the principles are essentially the same when it comes to this. And now we're going to show you with ChatGPT. There's also other tools that can maybe write blog posts in a better way, but if you're, have been dabbling in the AI world, you're familiar with ChatGPT, you might even have the Plus plan. So that's why we thought we'll do like a tutorial for you and a demo here to showcase this from start to finish, what this can look like. So with that being said, I'll bring on Jan, and we have some prompts prepared and also like an example for you to do this with, any form of content. But now we start with a blog post.
Let's do this. So this is the prompt that we've prepared, and you'll find this as well in the bundle.
Yep.
ChatGPT, take on the mindset of a master blogger. I'm targeting readers interested in, let's say, email marketing.
And would you say a specific name of a blogger? Would that be helpful, you think?
We could do it, yeah.
Like,
Like Brian
who
Dice, maybe
yeah, let's say Ryan Dice or yeah, I mean, the
Brian Dean. I think what's important to clarify is if you take names, make sure there's a boatload of content for those people available. If you yourself in there and you've written 50 blog posts, chances are ChatGPT doesn't know
It's the
you.
same. We are having a conversation about this a lot on a side note, but like for personal branding, I'm just telling Jan, you need to get your personal site out there, and then it's you. Like he's
And I
telling,
I couldn't be less bothered by it, yeah.
yeah, he's not so bothered about it. But you see, we'll have a conversation offline about this because the biggest CEOs, they do have sometimes like a personal brand, but Jan is less
Right.
focused on it. He's building his Cobra.
True. I'm building my AI SaaS right now. That takes all the
Yeah.
time. But essentially, I am with this example, we are creating content for people interested in email marketing for course creators. So I assume my target audience has an online course. They want to sell it via email. Within the should we do the cliche fitness industry?
Uh, Fitness industry. Okay, yeah,
Uh,
we can do like, or maybe something different. Like maybe say the mindfulness. Like
let's see. Okay.
maybe
So
you're a
the
yoga
no,
instructor or something. Yeah, or like meditation coach or something like this. Meditation
their
or
meditation coach.
very woo woo.
I have a core.
You're getting into that.
We're not trying to play you down, just a
No, but
coincidence.
I'm doing meditation and stuff like that. It definitely helps, but it's just let's see if ChatGPT comes up with something good.
So remember, we are an email marketing coach, and we serve people in the meditation, in the mindfulness space. So now ChatGPT came up with these 5 blog titles that are relevant for meditation coaches. Elevate your meditation course sales with Zen email marketing techniques.
This is so smart. I saw Mike Kim, like basically
Yeah,
he's not in the he's basically doing something for health practitioners. It's really smart because they are coaches, they have clients and things like that. And he's a master brand builder and copywriter and things like that. And he hosted a virtual summit for them and basically like going into a different market. This is a great idea, actually. If you are already have an expertise, but you're not doing for everyone, you're doing for a specific group of people. It's a great way to market yourself and stand out.
yeah. Yeah, but couldn't agree more. And the relevance and the connectedness to your target audience is so important these days. And this is also why we structured the prompt the way it is. But let's take one of those examples. I really like this one, from mindful messages to full classes. Full classes is with the one thing that you want to have if you have online classes. Crafting email campaigns that resonate with meditation seekers. The second part also gives you the reassurance, if you are a reader, gives you the reassurance that I, as a email marketing coach, understand that you want to talk to meditation seekers.
Yeah.
So I understand your target audience essentially. And we'll talk this one in this prompt chain that we're going through. Let's copy in the next prompt that we have in the chain.
Jan, talk a little bit about what prompts work well and like what is the power, especially in like ChatGPT. You need to use pretty good prompts to get somewhere, and there's different ways of doing prompting, right? You using like here ChatGPT, you're a master a blogger and you have experience in this topic, right? That's
Right.
kind of what you're doing now. You can also go with the approach of asking questions. Maybe you're not as sure what you're doing. So, what approach have you found working well, especially when it comes to creating like longer form blog content in this case?
For longer form blog content, you really need to know what you want to get out of. And for a good prompt for this is it has, I think, 3 to 4 components. So ChatGPT needs to know who you are, who you want to reach, what you sell, and what makes you unique. And a couple of these items you find in the first post already because it says, I am targeting readers in email interested in email marketing for course creators. So this is who I want to reach. This is more detail on who they want to reach. What you're not seeing right here is who am I? What am I selling? What makes me unique? And this is what we'll craft into the next couple of prompts here. Because right now, because this is not in the first prompt, there's no specific offer, as you can tell. This is just talking about email marketing, but it's not alluding to, okay, this is buy my course or hire me as a coach or have me review your sequences or something like
But
that.
this is also free content, right? This is going for a
Yeah,
blog post. You're not gonna be
yeah.
overly pitch. You might have a lead magnet or something in this post.
Yeah, we'll have a call to action. And in the prompt where we write the call to action, we'll also include obviously what the CTA is about and why they should take care of it and take
Cool.
it essentially.
Yeah.
But this is what we're doing right here is called prompt chaining. So essentially we have a conversation. We build up from prompt 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 and work our way through the entire article. And this is going to be quite an in-depth article. We're not writing the full thing in this video because that would be boring for you to watch. It's essentially
Yeah.
executing the same prompt over and over again,
Yeah,
but we
and
walk
that is
through
the
the
thing with
concept.
ChatGPT. You if you did it like in big because you have a you can something else you can talk about is the limits of tokens, right? So you cannot do unlimited or something like that. In a lot of other specific tools, you have a lot more, and you can do like a 3,000 to 4,000 word article. That's not going to be
Yeah,
possible, like to do it in one chunk with ChatGPT. So you need to do it in different prompts and prompts. This is prompt chaining, right? You need to go through
yeah.
this process, and then you have a pretty decent article. And that is the difference when it comes to ChatGPT versus something like Content at Scale or Surfer SEO or some other tools as well out there. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really important point. And you can see right here, it has created a pretty long outline already. So for the intro, we want to hook the reader with the narrative of the rising trend of mindfulness and meditation, of course, introduce importance of effective email marketing for building community and filling courses. That's the goal that our readers want to achieve. And this is the goal that we want to achieve with this blog post, guiding course creators in crafting resonant email campaigns. And this is obviously, it needs tweaking to your tone of voice. This is very generic right now, and it's on purpose because this is something you have to create for yourself.
And another note, do you put in, let's say you're doing something like that. We talked about this in a different video when you give it like a brief intro, but like the custom
Mhm.
instructions, does that matter a lot for this or is something
Well,
you
this is really important. Yeah.
yeah, so let's
So,
talk about this briefly. So because that is if you have the plus plan of ChatGPT, you can add the custom instructions there and that helps. I mean, basically you could add it to the main prompt, but it's just gonna take longer time. So it's
and
better
you have to
ChatGPT
add it
knows a
over
little
and
bit.
over again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a custom instructions point right here where I have a little bit in there, but this is
Yeah,
not relevant for this example, so I should probably take it out.
should probably do
Um,
that.
Essentially, this first one is giving ChatGPT context about who you are. So everything, the most exciting stories about yourself, why you started creating, who you create for, what type of content you create, your tone of voice, past experiences that you talk about in your content over and over again, your offers. That content goes into the first prompt.
What should
It's
you do if you don't have maybe you're a beginner creator, you don't have like everything defined yet? What is the bare minimum to put in there?
the bare minimum is your personality. Like even if you're just starting as a creator, you have a reason to start.
Yeah.
Put that reason in there. You have a goal as a creator. Put that goal in there. You have a rough idea of who you want to serve, who you want to reach. put that in there. And remember that this is subject to change. Humans change. And as you evolve, I don't even, I've lost count how often I've changed my brand over the past decade.
That's
The,
why I noticed your site is sometimes offline, and then it's coming
the,
live in a different site. You have redirected it, but yeah,
yeah,
it's funny.
that's what it is, right? We change as humans, and
Yeah,
I'm excited about something else than I was 5
yeah,
years ago, and
right.
that's fine, and you just update this stuff as you evolve and as you go
Yeah.
along, and for this one, how you would like ChatGPT to respond, you put stuff in there like a friendly tone of voice.
Yeah, you can say also use short sentences, don't use overly long paragraphs because when you something important when you're writing blog posts. And I see a lot of people who are not like coming from the blogger world too much, especially as a maybe you're coming from the YouTube world or you're coming from and I see even this when it comes to like writing emails from some creators, which is I'm not gonna mention any names, but they're putting like I need to read their email. It's coming 10 lines or something like that. I'm not reading that. And it's like really small because they didn't change anything in their email marketing tool or their blog, whatever they're using.
Yeah,
Use short sentences. You can look at my site, you can look at Brian Dean, you can look at Neil Patel. Look at bloggers who are doing this for a decade or something like that. When you look at,
yeah,
don't look at your favorite YouTuber when it comes to writing content because they're that's not what they started at. Like if you had like a million, two few million subscribers, they might not know how to write the perfect SEO driven blog post if they don't have a site that is like ranking on more than their name because maybe they have traffic for their name, but they don't have any content that ranks. This is very different.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, and essentially, this is what goes in there. So I've closed this by now because,
Yeah,
I want to get back to this outline,
sure.
but we have a couple of sections in here. We have a conclusion paragraph. This is by far not the final article, right? So the next step is get the introduction written.
And you don't have to write, for example, when it comes like you see here, ChatGPT is writing section one. You don't need to do that. You can also
Right,
something I like a lot. For example, when I'm writing, I ask questions in my blog post. So what are let's say I'm writing about the tool like online course software. I might ask what are the best online course platforms. That's a question that is an H2 tag. So this is important to talk about. You need like to have your headings right. Your title is an H1 tag. That's automatic basically, but in the inside a blog post you have an introduction which is really friendly to the point, like where you say in this article, in this post, or in this guide, I'm going to talk about X, Y, and Z. You get it really
yep,
straight to the point or have like something to lead into it, maybe some stat or something like that, and then you get into it, maybe have a table of contents, and then you get into the first H2 tag. That's basically the headline for the first section in your article. That's how you do
yeah,
it if you're a beginner to this.
yeah, that's a really, really important point, and what we'll do with this is it builds on what you just said.
Yeah.
It just tells ChatGPT, "I need an introduction," and I've copied the title in here, that uses master copywriter techniques to engage the reader immediately. It should establish relevance, evoke curiosity, and assure the reader they'll find solutions within the post. The tone should be friendly but with authority, and you can fill in the blank right here, or I'll leave this out if you filled out the custom instructions.
Yeah. All right. How long is this article gonna be? Like, what do you
As
think?
long as we want it to be.
I mean, what? Okay, so
We
that is also another thing which I've seen. You cannot check this in ChatGPT. It's a little bit harder, but you can. What is important, especially if maybe you're doing this for a brand, like Jan might do this for his company, or maybe he's now we are doing this in this case. You have basically in email marketing, you're writing for this type of people in the mindfulness practitioners or coaches. You might want to check who is doing this. Actually, you might want to check what kind of content that ranks and how long this content is. I think
right.
then you because you don't need to necessarily do too much longer content than them. You just need to make a better article. So if the top ranking posts are 3,000 words, you might and then tools like Surfer SEO can give you information about this a lot easier because then you can see what kind of keywords and stuff to add, sprinkle in. That's
Mhm.
more advanced strategies. We might cover this in a different session, but it's just something to keep in mind. So when you're writing articles, I only want to write 5,000 words. You don't really decide how long your content's gonna be if you want to rank. That's really an important thing. You don't decide this. Google decides this, right? You're not gonna rank for 1,000 words if the top ranking post is 2 to 3,000 words, and Google wants 2 to 3,000 words as the top spot. I think that is just an important distinction, and I think
Yep.
you need to think about this when you're writing content for SEO.
Yeah, very important point. And this is also an example of where I personally would would update this quite a bit,
Yeah,
because this is it might be your tone of voice, it's not mine. For the example, we'll keep this, but what I want to change is that there suddenly it starts talking about SEO strategies. And
yeah.
SEO strategies have nothing to do with writing email campaigns.
This happens sometimes in ChatGPT. That can like have its own life, unfortunately, but it's artificial. You need to like work with AI. You need to
Yep.
tweak it. But also, I do think the paragraphs are way too long, man, and the
Yeah.
sentences, to some extent, it's not doing quite good. But yeah, that you can put in the instructions, I guess. But sometimes it doesn't do, the best job with that.
Yeah, it would have, but the instructions are only relevant for new chats. And since I added the instructions after creating this chat
Right,
already,
right.
they don't reflect on
Yeah, so
this.
if you're starting over, you will do better. But for sure, add that in custom instructions that you want to have short paragraphs, short sentences,
Yeah,
and not like a lot of fluff, basically, like a lot of, because that sometimes the AI adds a lot of fluff that is not needed. To be honest, it's just not.
it's true. It's true. And that's why I like to use a more down to earth voice. That's always a good
And first
feedback, I
person,
think.
if you're writing as a personal brand, for sure. If you're
Yeah,
writing as a company, you might have we or something. But yeah, if you're writing as a personal, you need to write as a first person. And also, when you're talking to your reader, usually don't say you guys and things like that. Try to say you, like you're writing to
yeah,
one person. It's much easier to write content if you're writing to your best friend or something like that, or or to your favorite client. Let's say favorite
right.
client in this case. That would be way easier.
100%. But now this is more in line with what I would like to see. And obviously, as you're working with ChatGPT to write content, and if you really want to master this, this will be a back and forth process. This will be an iterative thing. It's not like you give one prompt and it magically spits out the entire blog post. Even if people selling prompt packs try to promise you that, and they give you like 5,000 word prompts.
Yeah, let me tell you something here, which is interesting. I think, and I based on this process, you are watching this now. If you're here on this workshop for AI writing mastery for ChatGPT, I think ChatGPT is great if you are maybe on a budget for this. If you're a blogger, you wouldn't use ChatGPT for your content writing. You would use it for ideation, maybe for an outline, stuff like that. But then you would bring it into a tool like Content at Scale or Surfer, and you will do
Yep.
the main work there if you want to use AI. This is not going to scale. Like if you're an agency or you want to actually produce content like a SaaS company or something producing a lot of content, you see, this is a process. This is like good for learning. This is actually really good for learning and prompting and actually learning how ChatGPT works. So I would encourage you to do it from this standpoint. But if you want to produce really great content for your blog, like in Content at Scale, you have a few questions. It spits out an article that is amazing. Like we tried something with Klaviyo, which is an email marketing tool for e-commerce sellers. We just put in the keyword, and basically there's also integration with keywords tools in Content at Scale. This is not something you get as easily with something like ChatGPT. So just keep that in
Right.
mind. The tool matters, but from a standpoint of getting started and learning ChatGPT, this is fantastic.
100%. And to be fair, let me show you one thing really quick. With the plugins,
Yeah, the
you
plugins are
can have
powerful.
SEO plugins in there.
Which one
So
exists for I've
there's
seen a few.
there's quite a bit for SEO where we have AI SEO article writer or repurposing. So you could even
Yeah,
repurpose YouTube videos into blogs,
that's
but that's
interesting.
probably that's a different video probably.
Yeah.
Because this dives into very specific type
No,
of
but let,
writing.
let us know if you're watching this workshop. Let us know if you want to see more about us showing some plugins for because there's so many, like similar with extensions for Chrome. It's too many, but we can
Yeah.
for sure show some useful ones if we are finding them, and we are for sure using some. I like the Canva one, for example, but for SEO, I haven't tried them. Like for example, Content at Scale integrates with keyword. I think Keyword Finder. What is it called? Keyword. I think it's Keyword
I
Finder.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a really powerful keyword tool, and that's included in Content at Scale. That's a paid tool. So sometimes when you go into other tools, they include other things for free,
Yeah.
essentially. Like that is the power. But ChatGPT is like good for a lot of things, and you can see here how to use it. So let's continue to
Yeah,
do
let's
this little
continue with the
process.
next section.
Yeah.
So this is how I usually go about writing content in ChatGPT. I work my way through the outline. So I just tell it continue with the next section, and it goes back to the top with the outline, and
Mhm.
it writes the next section. And then you give feedback on that section. You tell it, okay, I like this, I like this, I don't like this one, rewrite this in a specific way.
Yeah.
Just as you would with a human writer, to be honest. If you had a freelance writer, you would
Yeah.
also tell them, okay, this was good, this was bad, try this again.
Or think about it like an intern coming to
Yeah,
your business. This intern is not gonna do things perfectly from the very beginning, so you need to go back and forth. It's similar with ChatGPT. Like you need to go back and forth, treat it as a human. Like it's not human, but you treat it like that, and this
yeah.
you're gonna get better results because you're actually not just expecting it to magically put out this fantastic content right off the bat, and then you're molding it, you're tweaking things. You'll get there pretty, yeah, it doesn't take too long.
And this is how you also make it your own, right? If you are the
Yeah.
creator, you want your content to reflect your style, your perspectives on things and stuff like that. And this is the feedback process is how you make that happen with AI. I think the last step really to cover this is I'm not going to go through, okay, refine this section and then we do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next and refine blah blah. Let's talk about the call to action at the end of the
Yeah, let's
post.
talk about call to action, then get into like a few other use cases for writing in ChatGPT, like
Yeah.
email marketing and maybe social posts, which will be probably, or descriptions for anything. Like if you're doing like summit descriptions, YouTube descriptions, podcast descriptions, that's way easier than writing an in-depth blog post. So we showed the hard part is to do this. Like writing in-depth content with ChatGPT is the most difficult, I would say. Like to get really in-depth content that is actually sound like you and it's actually something that might rank in Google. That is more advanced. So it's way easier to do the other parts.
Absolutely, I agree. So this is now a prompt that you can take for yourself. Draft a persuasive CTA to conclude my post. Again, use proven copywriting strategies, blah, blah, blah. And then in the end, I've told it the call to action should be to book a free consultation for my service to write email campaigns for meditation coaches.
Yeah. Do you keep that in the same chat when you do this?
Yep.
Because okay. All right.
Yep. So this is when you write long form content, this is really important to keep everything in the same chat because then
Yeah.
ChatGPT knows the history of
Of
it.
of course, you would copy this also to a Google Doc separate because you will have the blog post in one Google Doc, maybe the emails in a different one or whatever
Yeah.
tool you are using for this. But yeah, I would. Otherwise, you might get confused with a long chat. You have to scroll down. So
That's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
yes, put your outline. What I would do personally, because I use Google Docs a lot for writing, you can go to Google Docs and put in your outline there, and then you can put in under the sections kind of the content when ChatGPT is giving you more of this, and it's like more refined. I think
Yeah.
that's what I would do,
It's
and then
easier to structure,
yeah,
and that's also where Content at Scale and Surfer and all the other tools make it better and do a better job than ChatGPT. Way easier to
of course.
structure the content.
Plus, you're
But
actually getting like like if you're saying like right, because you can put tone of voice like Brian Dean or Neil Patel or like your favorite marketer or expert. You can put that like if you want something like Joe Rogan, you can probably put it. He's like witty
yep,
and things like that. You can probably do that, and that's what these other tools that are more specialized, win over ChatGPT. I think
yep,
that, but for content at scale, would I use it for like ideation? Maybe like keywords and stuff is good, but with ChatGPT, it's so easy to go in and like asking for some titles or something like that. So it's like the barrier to entry is like lower. So I think that's what I use it a lot for,
yep, I
myself.
agree. And now let's talk about email marketing really quick.
Yep.
Let's say we've finished the article. Now, obviously, publishing it is not enough. You will need to promote it as well. So let's write an email newsletter to my audience, sharing this article with.
I think this is gonna be okay.
And this is pretty cool because now I've given it a very broad prompt. So in the first examples, it was quite specific,
Mhm.
and this was very, very broad.
But you
And
see,
now,
still is giving very long sentences. And it's funny they say dear. They like you would have to change this. Like if you're saying dear in an email, I would like be a little bit worried to be honest. Yeah. Maybe you're like a lawyer or something like that, and you're like you're very
Depends on
formal.
your target audience, yeah.
But even lawyers, I have lawyers and they don't use dear in their email, at least not anymore. So
To whom it may concern.
yeah, I mean, a very like official government organizations maybe in the United States might use that. I don't know, like
Yeah.
or some. But yeah, I don't. I would be a little bit worried.
Yeah, same here. But it's cool to
I
see.
would think it's from AI if it's coming like that. I would think it's like an AI generated email, to be honest. Yeah.
It's cool to see that it gives
Or
2 separate suggestions, though.
yeah, but you have to tweak this. Like this is like not for me. Like you have to have in email is even more important. Have really short sentences, 1 or 2 lines per paragraphs, not more. Like just don't do it more. Maximum 3 depends the context, but like people scan emails. They're like busy. They go on with their life. So just make it easy for them to consume your content, especially when it comes via email, because then via email you can like probably sell your services, your products, whatever you offer, that's usually done via email more than
Yep.
just on social media or your blog. So
Right, and that's the first feedback I'll give it. Shorten the sentences, never have more than 2 sentences per paragraph.
yeah,
The email needs to be easy to skim over.
yep.
Way better.
This is better. I'm very picky. I'm like very I'm like when I do emails, I'm checking like a million times before I send out the email. I'm like
Yeah,
pretty picky like with this, especially when it's for a personal brand. I think you get more picky, but even company brands they need to because people judge what's
you
coming out
need
from
to
you.
be important. You need
Yeah,
to be careful, yeah. But
yeah.
this is pretty good. I mean, obviously, you'd never start with "Dear," but other than that, I like this for a newsletter to just share the latest blog article because you don't need
Yeah.
many more call to actions
You
than
don't
that.
need too much for sharing the blog article. Like this is
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it a newsletter, to be honest. I would call it like an email to share the article with your list. And that has its place. You can do it. I don't think you get as much engagement as a newsletter or a content-driven email. But this is a good example for now. We're gonna have workshops on email marketing. We're gonna dive deep into this. So we are going to show you how to write maybe a full-blown newsletter, maybe a promotional emails for a sales sequence or something like that. We will have this, but this was more like a AI writing mastery session where we actually go into the intricacies of ChatGPT and what to think about. But yeah, for a social post, you can like do it also really simple. If you wanted to have some tweet, that's even easier. Like write 5 compelling tweets or something like that.
yeah. Let's see. Can you
Or
suggest 3 tweets on a Facebook post at a company?
how do you say now on
Yeah,
Twitter? It's X now. How do you say when you're tweeting? Do you still say
I
that?
still tweets.
Yeah, everyone
I
does.
have
I don't
no
know how.
idea.
I think I mean, it's never gonna stick. Like X is simple. I mean, but how do you say what you're doing on X? Like you're posting. Like I mean, you're writing
I
it.
think Elon wants to make it the everything app, so soon we'll just
Yeah,
have, like, I don't know, posts,
yeah,
but they wanna have payments and stuff on X as well, so that would be
yeah.
interesting.
X is it's interesting to follow for sure. I'm just kind of following it. What's happening? But
Yeah, and what's cool to see is this is in line with the tone of voice of the article and the email. I think this is the most important takeaway for you guys watching here, that if you have different types of written content, the tone of voice is the same.
yeah.
And in this example, it really is. ChatGPT still doesn't know how to do short sentences or short
Yeah, but
emails.
you have to tell it again, and that's what I tend to like see. Okay, you're spending some time on this. You can still do it quicker, but you can probably like customize this really easily. You're getting the
Yeah,
content now, so you can do this easily. For an Instagram captions, can do probably a pretty good job as well. ChatGPT is also good for emojis. If you have like I don't know exactly what emoji to use for this, because of course that's important when it comes to social content or even in your blog to some extent, like to just make it more fun, to make it more interested, break up stuff in your email marketing in the subject lines. Definitely use ChatGPT maybe to come up with the emoji for certain sections or yeah, in your email for certain sections and the subject line to have it stands out more in the inbox.
yeah.
That's important.
I like to start my subject lines with the same emoji every single time.
And and you can ask ChatGPT to come up with the subject line for this email. Maybe you want a
Yeah,
few ideas for it, and then you can maybe come with 10 ideas, and you define the best one
yeah.
for this email.
Absolutely. Let's do that, and then we wrap up the
Yeah, I think this
conversation.
has been a really valuable session. I mean, let us know if there's anything else you would like us to cover as well. You can let us know, and then we'll do, maybe there's something not included in the bundle or this training that we haven't covered. We'll be sure to record a video for you to do a tutorial or demo.
Yep.
But yeah, as you see here, coming with great, there are a few subject lines. Maybe you'll have to tweak some of them, but I like it that they're coming with emojis because it just stands out a little bit. Yeah, good
Good
stuff.
way to wrap this up. Yep.
I think this is good. So this is how you do it essentially, and you would have to, of course, have your swipe file of maybe subject lines that work for you and things like that. But we are gonna cover email marketing in depth in a future video here. So yeah, this has been a valuable session how to do AI writing for ChatGPT, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Ciao for now. Peace.
Ciao.